Today on Beyond 6 Seconds.
There are some things you can't learn in school. You just have to learn through experience. Because even someone who's in business can't warn you ahead of time what to look out for. Because you never know what people are going to do and what their intentions are.
Welcome to Beyond 6 Seconds, the podcast that goes beyond the 6-second first impression to share the extraordinary stories and achievements of everyday people. I'm your host, Carolyn Keel. On today's podcast, I'm speaking with Katarina Garcia. Katarina is a fashion designer and competitive tennis player. Combining both of her passions, she's launching her athleisure apparel line, Katsey, which will fill the niche of catering to women 40 years old and older. Katarina, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Carolyn. So glad to be here.
Happy to have you here. So please tell us a little bit about Katsey and how you got the inspiration to start it.
I've been a competitive USTA, that's United States Tennis Association, tennis player. In fact, I still play competitive tennis. And throughout my years of playing, I had all these older women coming up to me saying, "Why can't you design for us and develop a line? Because it's hard to find something to wear that's appropriate for us." Or they would tell me how they buy from the menswear department. So throughout the years, I started taking notes of what's missing. And then finally, when I decided to move to New York and launch my own line, because I became an empty nester, I figured that this is the niche that I want to get into.
Interesting. And tell me a little bit more about the women who were coming to you and saying that the clothes that were available didn't fit them because of the styles. Can you tell me a little bit about the challenges that they were seeing in the clothes that were currently available for them to buy?
Sure. So like Nike, Adidas, Lululemon, a lot of the styles, they reveal more skin. The styles are more geared towards the younger generation. They don't cover certain areas well. The skirts are too short. The shorts are too short. Things like that. And they're not very flattering. So they wanted the styles to be more age appropriate, but also be comfortable and stylish.
I see. Are the clothes that you're designing specifically for people to play tennis in, or is it broader than that?
Originally, I was going to start off with tennis. But then now when you go to some stores, you'll see that some of the tennis wear people are wearing when they play golf or when they're doing yoga, like the skirts or the leggings with the skirt attached to it and things like that. You could use it in different activities. So then I decided that it's going to trickle down to all the other sports.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then, like, I would also speak to other ladies who, because as you know, most women use athleisure wear even though they're not playing any sports because they're so comfortable. So like when they're running errands or especially women who travel, they like to wear it on the planes. So I am making sure that it's stylish enough for running errands and when they're traveling too.
I see. Yeah, the term athleisure apparel was actually new for me, and I'm trying to imagine. All I can think of is yoga pants. I don't even know if that falls in. Can you tell me a little bit about what athleisure is?
That falls into that.
Okay.
So athleisure, the ath part is like the athletic part. And then leisure is like the leisure because you're running errands and traveling and stuff. So it's pretty much athletic wear that is comfortable. So yeah, yoga pants, it could be yoga pants, it could be shorts, skirts and stuff, but it has to be comfortable enough to lounge in.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. No, that totally makes sense. Very popular these days. And how did you come up with the name Katsey?
Oh, let me just tell you, that was such a struggle. So I should give you a background before coming up with my name because that was like the last part that I just came up with like maybe a month ago.
Wow.
Okay, so when I knew I was going to launch this line, I partnered up with Amazon before I left Chicago.
Oh.
So they're partners with me in this. They started a fashion division. It's pretty new. And they pick only certain designers that have a really good story to their line.
Mm-hmm.
So I was lucky enough to be one of them. And I knew that if I wanted to partner with Amazon, I needed a really good fashion lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
So I found my lawyer. Do you watch Shark Tank?
I do occasionally watch it. Yes.
Okay. So, Damon John with FUBU?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So my fashion lawyer was one of the lawyers from FUBU.
Oh.
So far I have a really good team. Amazon, my lawyer, and I trust him completely. So like Katsey was not my first choice.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted something that really had a strong meaning. Because you've been following my story on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted it to represent strong women who is not only successful and determined in their activities, but also in life.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, at first, my name, it was supposed to be 40 Love because it started off with tennis. That scratched off because someone used it before.
I see.
I mean, technically I could use it again, but my brand has evolved beyond tennis.
Mm-hmm.
So then I was going to simply Smashing.
Oh.
Which my lawyer loved.
Yeah.
He said smashing could mean anything. It doesn't have to be tennis, but there's still a tennis name to it.
Right.
But I didn't go with that. And then I was going to go with Mia Forza because that means my strength.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted that to represent like all the women's strength.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you go through the trademarking process, it's not as easy as people think.
Mm.
Just because it's not trademarked in the US, you actually have to check to make sure it's not trademarked globally. And you have to make sure the meaning is not represented in another language.
Oh, yeah.
It gets very tricky.
Mm-hmm.
I literally put this on hold because I was so frustrated about finding a name. And then every time I ran it through my lawyer, he'd be like, no.
Wow.
So then one of my friends is like, you really should have part of your name in it. So I'm known as Kat in the tennis community.
Mm-hmm.
All you have to say is Kat, and people know that they're talking about me.
Wow.
So then, because I told you I wanted to make sure that it has a significant meaning for women,
right?
I actually typed in the word Katsey because you know how names have meanings to them?
Right.
And I didn't realize that Katsey is a name.
Oh.
And I was so excited to find out the meaning behind it. Katsey woman means that she is a strong woman with willpower and she has the dominance to be successful, positive attitude, optimistic view. So it was all the things that I wanted to represent and all the things I felt like I was and the women I knew were too.
That's awesome.
Aside from the meaning, I kept thinking like, you know how Nike has like, just do it?
Yes.
So I'm like, well, I have to think of the label. What am I going to put under Katsey? So then I'm like, well, these women are constantly evolving. Well, SE could stand for Smashing Evolution. Goes back to my smashing.
Wow. Yeah. So many different layers to the name. That's
right.
Awesome.
So then Katsey is now the woman who is evolving smashingly.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow. And that's definitely helpful to have the lawyer to help you navigate through trademarks. And it's so interesting to hear how the name evolved and how you've really been very thoughtful and purposeful about what you want it to mean. It has to have a pleasant sound and an easy spelling, but really have that meaning behind it. That's great.
Can I just be honest with you? I haven't told my lawyer yet.
Oh.
But I checked the trademark and everything. Katsey does not even exist.
Okay, well, that's good.
So I'm going to go to him and say, this is it.
Perfect. Yeah, he'll find out soon enough.
I know, right?
And that's so awesome that you have a partnership with Amazon. How did you go about connecting with them?
Oh my gosh. Okay, you know how you and I love LinkedIn?
Yeah.
So there was a post going through my newsfeed when Amazon just started their fashion division. They hired someone to become like the head of the department, like almost like vice president of it.
Sure.
And everyone was congratulating her. So then I was going to congratulate her, but then I like to read other people's comments. And they said, oh, you should also congratulate so-and-so because he is now in charge of new business development for Amazon, for the fashion division.
Uh-huh.
So then I sent him a connection invite and I said, oh, congratulations. I heard that Amazon has a new fashion division, which I'm really excited about. And I wanted to also welcome you to your new position and all that stuff. And then he immediately accepted my request. So I was like, wow, that was so quick. And then he's like, oh, well, are you developing anything interesting right now? So then I'm like, I have an idea. And then I told him about it. And then he immediately scheduled a conference call with me. And he was all excited. And ever since then, we've been working together.
Wow, that's incredible. It really speaks to the magic of, LinkedIn and really networking as well as, reaching out to people, personalizing your message. And that's how business gets done. That's awesome.
Yeah. But let me tell you, LinkedIn is just so powerful. And people shouldn't be afraid to reach out because just because they're in like a higher position, sometimes people overthink of what they're going to say to that person. But you have to remember, they're just people too.
Yeah.
With a title doesn't mean that they're superior to you. I think sometimes you have to treat them like you're on the same level. So you're not afraid to approach them.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah. So then every time I read an article, I like to write down the names of the people who are like the movers or shakers of events. So you've heard of Bonobus clothing?
Yes, I have.
Do you remember last year when they were sold to Walmart?
No, I didn't know that they were sold.
Okay, so I read an article. It might have been the Wall Street, and I don't remember what, but they had mentioned Jeremy Liu. He's a venture capitalist. He is the one that really skyrocketed Bonobus. So when Bonobus was sold to Walmart, they had mentioned his name. So I went on LinkedIn and sent him an invite. And I said, congratulations. I just heard Bonobus was sold to Walmart. And I said, I know Walmart is Amazon's competition, but I am partnering with Amazon and I have this great idea. Would you like to hear my proposal?
Wow.
Yeah. He was like, sure. So they're an option for me.
That's awesome. And then through your agreement with Amazon, will they be distributing your fashion line or how does that work with them?
Oh, so it's distribution and fulfillment, but it's not like, you know how other people, they do sell their line on Amazon. You have like all those you could type in, I don't know, you could type in shorts and a ton of shorts shows up.
Right. Like the marketplace they have, the third party.
Right. But this new fashion division, what's going to happen is they're going to promote a website. Like my own website is going to be within the Amazon website.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So that's another aspect of it.
Wow.
And then it's going to have, my story behind the line with a video. Also, like, we want it to be sustainable and good for the environment and for the people who work behind it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool. So it sounds like you just recently started this business or are still kind of working to get it off the ground. What else have you done so far that maybe you haven't mentioned here yet?
Last year, I ended it with a high note where I ended up partnering with a company who had their own factories overseas already. Because they heard about my idea, but then they wanted me to also design for the homeware division. So, like, my clothing line should have launched already. But by the beginning of this year, I had to walk away from them under my lawyer's guidance. And that's why my line isn't launched yet. But then my goal was to launch this line with the US Open in August. So right now I'm on a really tight deadline because it would be great if I could launch on August 27th. That is the target date. But the worst case scenario, I will launch it in November. And that is when the actual USTA tennis leagues start for the fall winter session.
Okay.
Either or, it's good. It's just, if I could have a booth at the US Open, that would even be better.
Yeah.
How cool would that be?
I know. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
So I'm still working on that target date, and I will keep everyone posted. The good thing is I've been in the fashion industry for about 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I have connections. People from India that I've worked with, they actually reached out to me right when I was about to leave that one company.
Mm-hmm.
So it was perfect timing almost. So they did my samples and things like that. But I am trying to have it done domestically because once people start ordering, I have to be able to fill it right away.
Right.
And there's a couple styles since it's not out there yet. Like none of the activewear line has it. That I'm afraid that people are going to order too quickly and I'm not going to be able to fill it.
I see.
And that's why I want to make sure that it's done in the US. And that's why it was so important for me to live in New York. Mm-hmm. Because there are manufacturers here in Brooklyn or in Seattle. Patagonia, and they have it here, and I actually found them. So I'm hoping that the same factory I'm able to work with. So I'm in negotiation with them.
Awesome. Wow, that's so exciting.
Yeah. It's a lot of research. It's a lot of hard work, and trying to juggle everything on a day-to-day basis without a team is very hard. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, I guess thinking about how you do juggle and all of these different tasks and create this new business. And you mentioned you have a strong background in fashion design and the fashion industry. What would you say are kind of the most important skills or talents that you have that you're using now to start up and run Katsey?
Gosh, the biggest thing that I have going for me is mentally. You can't let anything get you down. So I think mental strength is the biggest asset I have right now, because without it, like, I really wouldn't be able to move forward. Because when you are working with factories and all the other aspects of the business, people will say things, so you would work with them. Mm-hmm. But you also have to be smart and do your background checks and research, because you can't believe everyone what they say. And I'm learning that the hard way, actually. Oh. I would say it's all very mental for me.
Yeah, I hear that a lot when I talk to new entrepreneurs, that a lot of the skills are, persistence and not giving up and knowing when to make those decisions and being mindful of who you work with. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, like one example, this one owner of a company who lives in another state, he was like, I have a factory overseas. And he drove to New York City to meet with me, like very excited. And so I was like, okay, this guy has to be legit, because he's driving all the way here.
Right.
And it was bad weather that day too. So I met with him, and then he had like a printout of the factory, like pictures and stuff, but it wasn't like well done. Mm. And he was like, we only manufacture to companies in Europe right now, and trying to get into the US. I'm like, okay. So then I'm like, who are the companies you manufacture for? So he listed the names for me. Mm-hmm. And then after he left, I was looking at the list. I'm like, these are not European companies. These are American companies. Oh, boy. I'm like, he can't even get that straight. So I was like, okay, next.
Yeah. No, that's really smart to check out, everyone that you work with, especially in the beginning, but really throughout running a business. Absolutely.
Yeah. And you can't really learn that, I don't think, in school. There are some things you can't learn in school. You just have to learn through experience. Because even someone who's in business can't warn you ahead of time what to look out for. Because you never know what people are going to do and what their intentions are. Right?
Right.
Just trying to juggle different hats is hard. But what's good is if you have a strong support group. And that's why I know I keep promoting LinkedIn, but I've built such a strong community of like entrepreneurs who are here with me in New York. And even outside of New York, we keep in touch on a weekly basis and we help each other. So that's, I think, key when you're starting your own business is you have to have a really good support group.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great that you're able to bring people together and build your own support in the beginning with people who may be going through some of the same things that you are.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the biggest challenge that you've faced so far in launching Katsey and kind of how do you address that?
Well, the biggest challenge is, and I think it's probably with most entrepreneurs, is the financing. I've had people who said they would invest, and then when it's time to invest, they either change their mind or the timing is no longer right for them because unfortunate circumstances are holding them back. So it's like when you are talking to investors, nothing is guaranteed until they actually give you that check because you don't know what's going to happen to their company. You don't know what's going to happen in their lives the next few weeks or months.
Right.
And I've been finding that out. So I am constantly like looking out for new investors or see how I could finance this so that it will like move forward a lot smoother and quicker. So that's the biggest challenge for me.
Yeah.
Because the marketing is not as difficult because there are a lot of people who are interested and willing to help. Yeah, it's always the financing.
Yeah, particularly when it's a brand new brand and you're just trying to build your reputation. Looking forward, what are your goals for Katsey long term?
So the minute that this launches, part of the company's equity is going to go directly to charity.
Oh.
So I am a domestic violence survivor.
Oh.
So I'm a portion of that to go into helping the survivors, but also educating people about it. Once this gets going, my sister, she was a Peace Corps volunteer. So I want to be able to start an organization that she could start where it's more helping people.
Wow.
That's what I'm doing with Katsey. Katsey is helping me launch the bigger dream because dressing people is just not enough for me. I've designed for clothing companies. I've been a jewelry designer. I've worked for Nate Berkus designing homeware stuff. So like, yeah, making someone look good or making their house look good, that's nice, but it's not 100% satisfying unless you know it's really making an impact on someone's lives. So, and that's why I want this to help launch an organization that will help people.
That's amazing. So this is really the start of a much larger dream, as you said. And I know you want to help people and support survivors of domestic violence. Is that sort of your big dream, or is it encompassing even more than that?
Well, once this gets going and I'm able to hire designers, I want to do public speaking. I was going to start with colleges, but someone told me I should start with high schools because I want to be able to warn or tell people that if they're witnessing in their family someone who's going through domestic violence, you know, what they can do to get out of it, because the earlier you could get out of it, the better, or to prevent it. Like, I want to try to somehow prevent it before they're actually in that situation so they could see what the signs are and not to be afraid, because it is hard to walk away from it.
Yes.
It took me a while. I mean, yeah.
I think it is important to start earlier because in high school, you know, people are dating already. And I can imagine that there's a lot of potential abuse and really, you know, bad relationship behaviors and things happening in high school. So if you can talk to people then, because I don't think anyone's, I don't know, but I don't think many people are really talking about it in high school.
No,
I think people pretend it doesn't exist there.
Yeah, it's true. And when people are dating that young, I know that there are already abusive relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Or they see their parents going through it. So, yeah, that's where my heart really is.
Wow, that's great. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey so far with Katsey and your bigger vision to really help people and support the community. How can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about Katsey?
So, we're working on the website right now, but I am launching on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. But for now, they could follow me on Instagram because I'm going to start really talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And the handle for Instagram right now is Designing Cat,
Mm-hmm.
but with a K-A-T. Katsey is going to be, once I create the separate page, be Katsey. Instead of just Katsey, it's hashtag be Katsey.
Oh, and where will that page be?
Be Katsey is going to be on Instagram and on Twitter, and then eventually Facebook. Well, definitely LinkedIn.
Okay, cool. Is there anything else that you'd like our listeners to know or anything that they can help or support you with as we close out the podcast today?
I would actually love for women who are 40 and older to get in touch with me because I want to hear what they're looking for and, their challenges when they go shopping out there.
Mm-hmm.
I always love to hear feedback from the ladies because I want to make sure that they're also represented in the industry. Because unfortunately, what they do for the mature women is they just make the sizes larger, but they're not really designing for them.
Mm-hmm. I hear you. Okay, perfect. So any of my listeners who are women ages 40 and older want to reach out to Katarina, please do so on her social media that we'll put in the notes.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Katarina. It was so nice to catch up and hear your story. As I mentioned, I've followed your posts throughout the past year or two, and it's really exciting to see things starting to come together with your new fashion line. And looks like you have really great things ahead. So I'm excited to continue to see how you progress on your journey. And thank you so much for sharing your story today.
Oh, thank you for taking time out to talk to me and letting me be your guest.
Thanks for listening to the Beyond 6 Seconds podcast. Please subscribe to the show in iTunes or your favorite podcast player so you won't miss any episodes. You can also find all the show notes and links we discussed in this episode at our website, www.beyond6seconds.com. Until next time.